All right, looks like we are live, and I am here with Natalie Fulton, my friend, who is a great YouTube activist and also like an IRL activist as well. But I got to know you mainly through YouTube and then had the pleasure of meeting you, Natalie, in Sonoma County outside of a courthouse. Tell me about that first meeting we had.
That first meeting we had. Wow, it was great. I actually don't specifically remember our complete first interaction, but I remember
Fine,
thinking you were
fine.
really
We're
cool.
Yeah, we no, I remember it better because I knew who
Okay.
you were. You didn't know who I was, but I was like, "Oh, that's Natalie. That's Natalie from, Juggling Vegan." And so I walked up to you and I said, "Oh, I know you from YouTube." And then we had like a good like friend chemistry like right off the
Yeah.
bat. And
Yeah.
and then we were just like standing in line waiting to go in and chit-chatting a lot. And so I feel like we were kind of like instant buds, which was really
Yeah.
cool.
I
And
felt that too.
yeah, best friends, some people might say. But yeah, so I've been following your activism on YouTube since Juggling Vegan. And so you've been doing a lot of like street activism and like I'm just gonna do this groundbreaking thing where I start at the beginning and talk about
Wow.
so where did it I know it's this is an amazing idea I had. So like how did it all start for you?
Yeah, so are you asking, like, how did activism start or veganism, or
Well, kind of
where do you wanna
both because
hop
I
in?
always I always like both of those conversations. So let's start with veganism and then activism.
Alright, yeah, I feel like whenever you meet vegans, it's like, "Oh, how'd you go vegan?"
Right.
So, for me, it was kinda slow and then all at once. Like, I'd watched the Game Changers trailer, and I thought that vegans were cool. I hated vegetarians, but for whatever reason, I didn't hate vegans. And then one fateful Thursday night, I ended
Wow.
up on the vegan subreddit. I don't know why I was there. And then there was a link to Earthling Ed's ebook, 30 Non Vegan Excuses and How to Respond to Them. And I like reading ebooks. So I just kind of started reading it, and it all made a lot of sense to me. And then it had a link to veganbootcamp.org. So I signed up for that. They send you Dominion the next day.
Oh
So I
wow.
remember I was pretending to have COVID so I could like work from home at the time.
Mhm.
And I spent the day like watching Dominion, and it was just so awful that that's when I knew I had to not only go vegan but try to do something for the animals. And since it was still during quarantine, like the vaccines weren't out yet, I couldn't really do the kind of activism I wanted to do, which was street outreach, because that's like what I'd seen.
Mhm.
And all I did was watch outreach videos for like months and just like
Wow.
get ready and kind of wait. And then as
Mm.
soon as the world kind of opened back up, I hit the streets of New Orleans and started talking to people.
So you just jumped right into activism basically, like right from being non-vegan to being like I not only have to be vegan, but I've got to be active and do something about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty impressive. A lot of people like, they, for one, they take a while to kind of connect with the message, and then it takes them a while to be like, I need to do something more. I was the same way when I went vegan. I was like, it was very quickly that I was like, this just isn't going to be enough. It was within a few
Yeah.
days
Oh,
probably when I
wow.
was like,
Nice.
yeah, I mean, you can't see something like Earthlings and Dominion, and Earthlings is what made me vegan, and just be like, okay, this is okay, you
Yeah.
know.
I mean, some people do, which is crazy.
Yeah, some people do, but not very many. In my experience, when I've shown people Earthlings, they've usually gone vegan. I'm not going to say that's 100%, but it's a pretty high rate.
Nice.
Yeah. How about you? Like if have you gotten a lot of people to like watch the films?
So I got my husband, he watched Dominion, he went vegan right away after watching
Mhm.
it. My friend watched it, she went pescatarian, and
Hmm.
yeah, she's
Pescatarian.
I know. And then a couple of my friends watched it and didn't make any changes. They didn't watch the whole thing. They watched about 40
Yeah.
minutes of it, but still you'd think that that
Hmm.
would be enough. And then yeah, I haven't gotten too many people to watch it. They don't want to because they know
Wow.
it made me vegan, and they don't want to go vegan, so they don't want to watch it.
Do you like when you have like a friend of yours who watches Dominion for like 40 minutes and doesn't go vegan, like to me, that changes how I think about the person.
Oh
What
yeah.
about you?
So it's not even just that, like that definitely changes how I feel about the person, but even just people, like even just having a negative conversation with a friend where they say, "Oh, taste can justify it" or whatever, that
Mhm.
changes my opinion as well. So yeah, I'm pretty sensitive to like if people don't take this seriously, like I just can't respect them as much and it's kind of a bummer. So yeah, I've definitely lost respect for a lot of people and it's a shame, but you know, we can still be friends. You don't have to respect all your friends, do you?
Right, right, right. Yeah, I mean, it would be different, I guess, than if it was like a partner. So, and
Yeah.
since we met, you got married. So you've been, and we haven't known each other that long. It was the Sonoma trial, so that was what September, October, and so yeah, you've been going through a lot of change in your life. Had you been with your husband for a long time, and like you guys were already both vegan and kind of working towards the same goal?
So we got together in 2017. So we've been together for a while. So I was 27. I remember I was like so messy. I was like, I gotta clean up for this guy. Like I think he's the one. And yeah, we've been together ever since. And I went vegan in 2020. So we weren't vegan at all.
Mhm,
And then we kind of had similar realizations together. We both have a really strong relationship with our dog
mhm.
and just having that bond there and then seeing what was happening to the animals, it really connected. But thank God, because if he hadn't gone vegan, like I don't know
Yeah,
where
what
our
would you have
relationship would
done?
be. Yeah, I don't know. And he's always been so supportive of my activism. He's a YouTuber, so he
Oh, is
taught me
he?
how to edit and how to, you know, I got to use his cameras at first before I got my own, and he was
I,
just really helpful.
I don't know who he is. Are you comfortable saying who he is as a YouTuber?
I don't want to say it publicly. I'll tell you
Okay.
later, but yeah,
Okay, sure.
we
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
want to be like a influencer couple or
Yeah,
anything,
yeah, sure.
but maybe one day I'm trying to convince him to do a collab with me just cuz his channel's
Mhm.
huge and
Oh,
I think it
wow.
would be cool.
But
Yeah.
he's not a like an animal rights YouTuber.
No, no, he did one
Okay.
video about veganism, which was great though,
Mhm.
and I know it turned a lot of people, at least vegetarian, I don't know about
Oh,
vegan.
wow.
Yeah, like he has had people
Interesting.
come up to him like, "Hey, yeah, your video turned me vegetarian." And then he said, "Oh, you're still breastfeeding?" Or he said something like really mean, which I just thought was hilarious. He was like,
Is
"Maybe I
he
shouldn't have said that."
is he I find you to be someone who is direct, but also you have a kind delivery. Would you say he's the same way?
His delivery isn't quite as kind. That's why
Really?
he doesn't
Yeah,
have a lot of these conversations with people because he like can't really do it in a way. Like this one
I
time, oh
see.
my god, this is so bad. So he was talking to his mom, and his mom was like, "Oh, you know, I only eat fish once a week or something." And he said, "Oh, so you only rape children once a week?" Or something like that. It was just like really harsh.
Yeah, yeah. It's pretty intense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
With my family, I think I'll say, you know, what's happening to animals, but it took me a while to like really express like this is really important. Like we were like kind of like years into me being vegan where things were still like not we weren't all fully vegan. And eventually I finally just had to say like you got to watch Earthlings. You got to watch it. And yeah, and I think everybody in the family's been basically pretty much vegan since.
Oh, that's
I
awesome.
don't say pretty much vegan. A friend gives me shit about that because he's like, "Look, that means not vegan," and let's
Yeah.
just be real about that. Okay, but I think my
Maybe,
mother and father,
pretty
yeah,
plant-based might be a
yeah,
more
pretty
accurate.
plant based, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but you've honed your skills over the years now since starting YouTube, and you've had so many street outreach videos. And I think like it's interesting because that was sort of a genre of YouTube, but you're like what separated it from the other people doing it was like a lot of the people you were talking to were drunk. Because you were like hitting people outside of,
Yeah.
I guess you were on Bourbon Street or something, right? A lot of the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I was on Bourbon Street. There's this bar called Lafitte's Bar Blacksmith Shop.
Mhm.
It's the oldest continuously running bar in the US because it never closed down during Prohibition.
Yeah, yeah,
And yeah, I when I first started going out, I had a sign that says free beer if you talk to me about veganism because I wanted
right.
to like give something away. And yeah, definitely a lot of drunk people. And I think that that's really helped me because since it's such a highly emotional topic and
Hmm.
drunk people are more honest about their emotions, so I think I really learned how to talk to people in a way that you don't get as much from sober people. And like if you can deal with a drunk person who's angry, you can pretty much deal with anyone.
Yeah. What was like the worst situation that you dealt with? Like, because I mean, sometimes people get really intense when they're drunk.
Yeah, so there's this one guy who's a regular at Lafitte's, and he's always hated me and given me mean looks or whatever when I'm out with my sign. And one day he came over and started yelling at me and like vegans are like how many vegetarians even are there? Like you're not doing anything. Like animals are he just fucking flipped out and like
Yeah.
it looked like it was about to get physical. So I literally had to leave and then every time I go back and he's there, he's like, yeah, just glaring at me. So that guy was scary. And he's huge. He's got to be over 6 feet tall, but he's older. So he shouldn't be this deranged, but maybe that doesn't really matter.
That seems like it would fit right in New Orleans, though. Yeah. I've only been there a few times, but it's definitely one of those kinds of places where you're going to get some incidences happening.
Oh yeah, it's one of those places that people will ask me, "Why do you always talk to drunk people?" And I just say, "I'm in New Orleans. That's the only option. Like everyone is drunk here all the time. Even if it's a Tuesday morning, the people on the streets are probably going to be drunk. So you just got
Yeah.
to work with what you've got."
Yeah. What's like the most common excuse you've gotten when you've done your street outreach?
The most common excuse from meat eaters, you mean, in
Yeah.
general?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oof. So I feel like it's gotta be the humane myth. Like, what if we just improve the system, or what if we did it better, or if we had a happy way to farm these animals? I think that's immediately where people's minds go, especially because of all the brainwashing from the
Yeah.
meat industry. So, yeah, I would say that one. And that was also one that kind of took me a while to really learn how to tackle because I feel like a lot of outreachers, they'll kind of say, oh, well, what's the definition of humane? And then it kind of gets into semantics.
Yeah.
And yeah, I came up with a better method that's just why do they deserve to be treated well in the first place? What is it about animals that you think they should be treated well? And then once they say that kind of stuff, you can say, like, okay, so we agree that reducing animal suffering is preferable. They say
Yeah.
yes. Then you say, okay, so do they suffer in slaughterhouses? And
Oh,
I found that that connects with people.
I should have stopped you because we should just role play it. Let's do it. Like
Oh, okay.
I'll be this drunk guy and I'll be like, "Oh, free beer if I talk to you. You got a microphone. How talk you probably need someone smart to talk to, so talk to me. Talk
They
to me.
do
Let's go."
always think they're smarter. Yeah, so why aren't you vegan?
Why aren't I vegan? Wow, you're gonna start with that. Well, because fried chicken tastes amazing. Like, have you ever had fried chicken?
Never. Yeah, I've had fried chicken. It's really tasty. Do you think sensory pleasure can justify torturing animals?
Well, they're just animals. So, I mean, look, like there's something called the circle of life. And, uh, I mean, I think the animals should be treated in a good way before they're killed. But, at the end of the day, we're also animals and animals eat other animals.
Yeah, so you gave me a lot right there. I really appreciate it. So let's just kind of go, one at a time. So your point about what if we just treated the animals or they should be treated well? Why do you think animals should be treated well in the first place?
Well, because like animals are, they are beings that feel things. Like, it's true. Like, I don't want to be just mean. Like, if you're gonna like, if someone's walking their dog right here, I'm not gonna go and kick their dog because that would be cruel. Like, so if you're gonna just randomly hurt an animal, you're gonna have to go through me. But if but if you but you know, people got to eat.
Yeah, totally. So, yeah, I mean, it's great that you agree that animals feel pain. They absolutely do. And you don't want to cause unnecessary harm to animals. Could we agree that reducing animal suffering is good?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Awesome. I 100% agree as well. I'm so glad that you think that too. So, do you think that animals suffer when we send them to slaughterhouses and kill them at a fraction of their lifespan?
Mm, I would say, yeah, probably they do suffer, but I'm guessing that there are places that do it in a more humane way and do it in a better way, you know. And
Yes.
I know that in America, we've got, you know, laws that protect animals.
Yeah, so we have the Humane Slaughter Act of 1956. Unfortunately, a lot of the standards aren't followed, but let's say we have killing animals in a really bad way, like setting them on fire, and then we have killing animals in a less bad way, like maybe they have a bolt gun to the head or they're stunned and then their throats are slit. But we also have a third option, which is not killing them at all. Which one do you think would reduce animal suffering the most?
Well, probably not killing them at all.
Awesome. I totally agree. And you said earlier that you think that we should be trying to reduce animal suffering. Would you agree that going vegan is the best way to reduce animal suffering?
Yeah, probably, but I'm still going to eat chicken nuggets.
Sure, but as long as we agree that vegan is the most moral path, that's I think an important foundation. So yeah, that's kind of how you tackle that humane
Yeah,
with. At least
so
then you get them to like kind of like a place where
insane. So would
yeah.
you so you just basically like you feel like you've gotten to a good place when you get to a position like that.
I feel like every position I'm in is good now. I haven't always
Hmm.
felt that way, but when you go out there and you talk to people, I've talked to thousands of people about veganism at this point. I've
Yeah.
been on tours where I literally talk to people all day for 3 weeks
Hmm.
straight. Once you've done that much and you have that much experience, you pretty much always feel like you're going to know what to say. I mean, there are times where people say things that I've never heard or it's like a little confusing, but they're all variations of similar things, and there's new stuff coming out, like regenerative is really hot right now. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that just with practice, um yeah, you can do it.
Yeah, that was really good. Like, I feel like you were very calm and methodical and kind of like breaking down each little point too. And yeah, I feel like even if I was some drunk guy, like you would have like pushed me in the right direction in that position because you have to like come away from that kind of debate realizing that your position is selfish and kind of absurd. So yeah. Were they like, you know, you talk to these guys and they'd get a free beer, so you guys would kind of like sip your beers while you're talking, or
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, cool. So then they would walk away and they'd be kind of happy and stuff. But how, like, I'm sure you don't know the answer to this, but like during the course of all these like conversations with drunk guys and gals, do you think that what would you say like the number of people like actually like really went vegan? Do you think?
Yeah, honestly, I have no idea. And I mean, I've definitely gotten messages from a few people, but I think the most common message I get is from people who watch my videos, not from
Mhm.
people that I've actually talked to. So I think about it more in terms of that. And then there are some people that, have followed my content for years, like my friends, and like have just gone vegan.
Mhm.
So it's almost one of those things like maybe you do have to just expose people to this like over and over and over and eventually it'll click. But yeah, part of the uncertainty is why I'm moving away from outreach a little bit.
Mhm.
So because I really like that quote, what gets measured gets managed, and like if we can't measure our success in this, then that's a concern for me.
Right, right. Okay, that's interesting. So, I mean, when I met you at Sonoma, I think at the time you were on a tour. You were going around the country in your van, maybe, and you were working for Allied Scholars, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, so maybe not in a van. You look like you were about to
Well,
correct
yeah, I wasn't on tour. I was on tour for, like, a few weeks at a
me.
time.
Oh,
So
gotcha.
it
Yeah.
wasn't like a big cross country thing,
Oh,
although
I
that would
gotcha.
be cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, how did that go? I mean, I think what allied scholars, and correct me if I'm wrong, is it's Dr. Faraz Harsini's, and it's the going around to universities and basically talking to people on campuses, and
Mhm.
also trying to work on policy at the campuses too, right? Am I wrong about that?
No, you're right. Allied Scholars is great, and the reason that I prefer talking to university students over kinda random people on the street is because university systems are kind of a closed social circle. So
Mm,
people there are going to see the vegans over and over. And like, if they do go vegan, they're going to automatically have a vegan community there
mhm,
with them to support them. And that social support is so huge when you're talking about habit building and, getting behavior change. So that's why I think it's so great to talk to university students because they're also on their own for the first time. And the other cool thing about ASAP is that, like, it's not just me, right? It's me and Faraz and other people. So if they talk to one of us, we kind of make an impression. Then sometimes they'll talk to another one of us, and that person can kind of cover the ground that the first person didn't. And it's so much more impactful coming from a lot of activists. And then even people who aren't vegan, some of them want to get involved with making the dining hall options better or things like that. So they can almost do animal activism before they even become vegan. Then they're more likely to become vegan if they do that.
mm. So then is the goal like what would you say like your main goal is still the same? Is just to get as many people vegan as possible?
Mm-mm. No,
No.
so I don't no, that was my goal for a bit. Now my goal has changed to banning factory farming in the US. Like, that's my
Mm,
goal for my lifetime. I think it's realistic. I think we can do it.
mhm.
So that's kind of what most of my actions are aiming toward.
So you said ban factory farming. So you mean there would be still some like I mean I know that you want all animal exploitation
Yeah.
gone, but you're saying your goal is specifically factory farming.
Yeah, so I would love if all animal farming were gone, if everyone turned vegan and just expanded our circle of
Mhm,
compassion. And, I love the idea of changing hearts and minds. I think that's a bit out of touch with reality. I think it is pretty realistic that we could ban factory farming, though.
mhm,
And that makes up 99%, over 99% of animal farming in the US. 49% of people surveyed are already support a ban on factory farming. So to me,
mhm.
it just seems like we have a real shot. So I think that we should pursue it.
Yeah, well, and that's part of what you're doing now with Pro Animal Future, right? So
Yeah.
since we met in Sonoma, you've also taken a job with Pro Animal Future, and they're working on a Denver ballot measure, actually several Denver ballot measures. What can you tell me about those?
Yeah, so Pro Animal Future is amazing. I remember when we were at Sonoma, Eva was there and
Mhm.
she gave me
Yeah,
like a Pro Animal Future pin. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. I love the name Pro Animal
yeah.
Future. And I had made a video about their research. Pax Fauna and Pro Animal Future are the same. So I made a
Mhm.
video about their research like over a year ago. And then I guess I was kind of on their radar. So they reached out to me about possibly doing their social media stuff. And yeah, it's been amazing so far. I went out to Denver and talked to voters, and we have two ballot measures. One is to ban the sale of fur, and one is to ban slaughterhouses. So if we win, we'll shut down the largest industrial lamb slaughterhouse in the country. And the sheep industry is not very good. Like, it's small. Most Americans don't eat sheep. The average American eats less than 2 pounds of sheep per year. So
Wow.
it's kind of an easier target when it
Mhm.
is like in terms of the meat industry. And it would pave the way for us to do this in future cities. And eventually we want to work up to a state level to ban factory farming in 10 states within the next decade. So that's the goal. But yeah, it's been really
Interesting.
awesome. All my coworkers are super cool. It's research based, which I like. And doing the voter outreach, you're out there talking to meat eaters and you'd think they wouldn't support a slaughter ban, but a lot of them are all for it. Like, they don't want to go vegan, but they are willing to change the system, which is kind of confusing to a lot of people, but it makes sense because going vegan is a big ask. I know it's not hard, it's not hard, but to them it seems like such a big ask. But we're just asking that for them to check a little box on a ballot. That's
Mhm.
so much easier. And then we can still make big wins for animals.
Have you, I mean, I know the campaign is sort of nascent, like it's just sort of gotten started, but I imagine the backlash from the animal industry is going to be fairly intense. Have you started to feel it?
We haven't felt it, but they've definitely been talking about us. The
Mhm,
CEO of Superior Farms, the sheep company, his name is
mhm.
Rick Stott, and he's given a couple interviews about us. And yeah, he said he's very concerned and that the entire meat industry is afraid of us because they know that if we do this in Denver, we can do this in other progressive cities. And they are putting a lot of money into the opposition campaign. That being said, their website is so stupid. It's stopthebannprotectjobs.com. And then they just
Yeah.
released what their fur opposition campaign is going to be. And it's going to be keep your hands off my hat. Like, it's just so stupid.
I do want to say, like, it's a note of caution, because it's like during the Sonoma trial, the case that the prosecutors put forward, I found to be really simple and dumb. And I was just like, there's no way this is going to succeed, but it worked. I mean, it got, people were basically the defense, or I mean, not the defense, but the allegations that they were making against Wayne were just like, like these are a bunch of crazy vegans, like they're extreme, it was really not very nuanced, not impressive. I was not impressed by it, but it still worked. So sometimes the stupid is just like, I hate to say it, but that's like where the public might be at. I know
Yeah,
that
I
sounds
mean,
condescending.
their articles about us are saying that we're an extreme animal rights group and things
Yeah.
like that. For sure. Yeah, I mean, our chances are about 50-50 right now according to
Mhm.
their polling. But
Hmm.
that's a real shot. And if we don't win
Yeah.
this time, we're gonna win next time. We're gonna learn about
Mhm.
campaigns, build
Mhm.
more community. And the good news is that Denver is a super progressive liberal city. So they may not be as susceptible to some of that messaging.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Denver seems like it would be a prime location for that. How much do you know about that sheep slaughterhouse? Because like you mentioned, like most people don't eat sheep, or not very often, but a lot of people do wear wool. Like, is it also like a place that produces wool?
I don't know. It doesn't produce wool. They may like skin the sheep for rugs. I
Yeah,
would assume most sheep slaughterhouses do that, but usually wool facilities are separate because
I
the sheep
see.
aren't killed right away for wool. They're sheared and then sent to the slaughter. But yeah, I mean, I know a good bit about the slaughterhouse. It's in Globeville, which is the most polluted residential zip code in the entire country. So it's a predominantly Hispanic, Black neighborhood. All the interstates run through it. There's a Purina factory there, so it smells really bad because of that. The slaughterhouse kills 1,500 lambs per day, which is a huge number. They have really high turnover rate. We actually interviewed one of their former employees, and it is crazy the stuff he said. He said that he had never done drugs, but to deal with the trauma of working there, he started using cocaine and marijuana, and he was talking about the negative effect that the slaughterhouse has on the rest of the community. So, yeah, we also Animal Investigation, I think, did an investigation of one of their other slaughterhouses in California, and it was just terrible. They they weren't following the Humane Slaughter Acts. The lambs were suffering well before they died. They found a baby lamb just dumped in a dumpster, just left there to die. They were also changing the labels on the meat by 2 weeks, the sell by date. So they were falsifying the information of
Wow.
what they were selling. Yeah. And then there was this lawsuit in 2021 against the Superior Farms in Denver where a Muslim employee experienced a lot of racial discrimination, and he was the one in charge of the halal slaughter because they're a halal slaughterhouse, and they
Mhm.
weren't following the halal protocols, and it's just a complete disaster.
Wow. What have you learned about like the political process so far, I guess from this campaign?
So I'm not as involved in that. Like the
Mhm.
ballots were on, the initiatives got on the ballot before I joined the team.
Mhm.
So, and I didn't write any of the legislation or anything like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, we also, you and I, we were together collecting some signatures in Sonoma County, where
Yeah.
they have a CAFO ban on on the November ballot um, as well. So yeah, there's a lot going on around the country and some exciting legislation being put forward. And for the most, yeah, I think in all cases, basically these are people-led initiatives. So it's kind of sad because the legislators should probably be doing some of this work. They're not doing it, so the people are taking it into their own hands. And I think Pro Animal Future made a great hire when they hired you because you're really good at your
Appreciate it.
social media. You're also very dedicated, and so your evolution from the street activism to this kind of, I mean, it's still like it's on boots on the ground kind of work. So you'll still be good at that, but I'm interested in the evolution from trying to make some people go vegan on the street to a more systemic change. And that is like kind of what DXC kind of does. I know you did an open rescue with DXC. You made a video about that. Do you want to talk about that? I don't know if you want to talk about that or how much impact those have had on you.
Yeah, I'm certainly happy to talk about it. You mean the open rescue specifically?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great, man. It was,
Oh,
yeah.
and before you
So
say, I think that people should go watch that video if it's still on your channel because it was like a really cool like breakdown of like how this worked. I thought it was a really cool video.
appreciate that. Yeah, it was neat because I'd heard about open rescue and I thought it was this great idea. Just
Mhm.
rescuing animals is amazing because as many people as we turn vegan, that's not going to help animals who are in the slaughterhouses right now. It's going to
Right.
help future animals ideally. So getting
Mhm.
to go into a slaughterhouse and like help save a chicken from certain death, like that was amazing. But ALC, so it's the Animal Liberation Conference, and it was last June. And, I'd been doing animal rights for quite some time. I'd traveled around a lot, I've met a lot of different activists. But until I went to ALC, I never really felt like, I don't want to say I never felt like we had a shot, but I never felt like I was around activists who were dangerous, I guess, like dangerous to the meat industry in like
Oh,
a really
yeah.
tangible way. And after doing the open rescue and seeing DXE and how much preparation they did and just their leadership and they just were so prepared and they did all this stuff and I didn't even know what was going on at all. They didn't even tell us and we were still able to save a bunch of chickens and yeah, just seeing that I felt like, all right, I think we can win this. So, it was amazing.
So what about it made you feel like we can win this?
Yeah, I mean, some of it I can't really talk about because it's some of like their methods behind the scenes that I think are
Mhm,
kept
mhm,
pretty hidden, but just things like that, like, oh, they know what they're doing, they know how to get this information, they know how
mm,
to,
mm. They
track
do their
certain
homework,
things.
is what you're saying. They do
They
their
do their
homework.
homework. They do their homework and they're not afraid
Mhm.
and they're yeah, they're just really going hard at the right targets.
And so clearly you're not afraid either because you're willing to just kind of throw caution to the wind and let's go for it.
Hey, I ride a scooter, like a moped, so yeah, I guess I am willing to throw caution to the wind.
What's scarier to you, doing an open rescue or riding on that moped?
I think my chances of death are certainly higher on the moped.
Yeah,
The open
yeah.
rescue was so like it felt like being in a spy movie, and
Mm,
I just felt really alive, and yeah, it was so cool.
interesting. Interesting. Yeah, that's a really cool story. And I think that's the first video that I saw where somebody, had just kind of joined in an open rescue and then just documented like what that experience was like. Do you think more people should do that? Do you think people should be more open about this? Because you kind of touched on some aspects of it that were like, you were like, well, we shouldn't. I couldn't talk about this aspect, but part of the whole thing about open rescue is like the openness about it. Now there are aspects that you don't want to share with everybody, but what do you think about like other YouTubers making videos like you did?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's called open rescue for a reason, right? Because you want to be open about it and say, like, hey, this is what I did. Prosecute me if you want. It's kind of saying, hey, I'm not afraid of you, and I want to change the legal system, which I find is
Mhm.
really cool. And yeah, I mean, I guess I could even answer that more broadly. I think documenting stuff is great, because once people see someone doing something, they're a lot more likely to do that thing. I'm sure you've noticed there's so many street outreach channels on YouTube now.
Yeah.
And I don't feel as if I can totally take credit for that, but a lot of those people have messaged me like, "Hey, you inspired me to do this. I made a
Hmm.
video about how to do this by yourself," which I think was holding a lot of people back. So yeah, the more you can show like, "Hey, you're a normal person, you're taking these big actions," it influences people to feel like they can do more for the animals, and that's absolutely what we need. Anything that you wouldn't want to share would be things that you don't want the meat industry to know, or
Hmm.
stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. Have you ever, like, when you were doing your street outreach, I meant to ask you before, but someone that you've spoken to on the street, have they ever like messaged you after watching themselves on your YouTube channel?
Yeah, they've
Yeah.
like commented,
Oh,
which is
nice.
always really cool. Yeah.
What
So
did
one
what did
one
they
guy was
generally say?
mad,
One guy was
but
mad? What did he
yeah, he
say?
was mad. He was like, "Oh, I didn't even know we were gonna be talking about veganism," because, like, a lot of my conversations don't start where they know we're talking about veganism. They talk
Right,
It's
right,
like a quote or talking about power or something. So that dude
right.
was pissed, but another guy has commented like, "Hey, this made me think so much. I'm seriously considering going vegan." So you get a
Mhm.
mix.
Interesting. Yeah. I always find like it's really interesting when people react defensively. They say like, that may be like the last step to like considering some change because, if you're kind of scared of change, then you react with this almost like not violent, but almost this like verbally violent way of like
Mm.
rejecting the change because you realize it's a possibility and maybe coming.
The backfire effect, that's called.
Yeah, the backfire effect. It's
Yeah.
interesting. Like very shortly before I went vegan, I had gone on several first dates with women who are vegan, and for
Mm.
no reason at all, no reason, like they didn't even talk about veganism. They didn't push it on me at all. I found it annoying because I was just thinking, like, well, what are we going to do? Like, where are we going to go? That kind of thing. It was just such a selfish thing. But that was very shortly before I actually like ended up going full vegan. And then
Huh.
here I am talking to Natalie Fulton.
That's interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like because so many people react so negatively and they haven't gone
Mhm.
vegan. So, but yeah, maybe there is something with that. Like I had really negative reactions to vegetarians when I was younger. So, but that was
Yeah,
a
yeah.
long time ago.
I just remember sitting around with my buddy when I was like 14 and talking about vegetarians, and we were just like, well, plants are alive.
Yeah.
So you're killing the plants. And we thought that was a great argument. We're like,
Yeah.
yeah, plants
People
are
love
alive.
that argument.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. And actually I was gonna say, like, one of the major excuses that I hear more than anything for me is always the crop deaths argument. So it's like I hear that a lot.
In
And
person or online?
in person when I'm talking to
Really?
people about, yeah, they talk about it a lot. It just comes up throughout the course of the conversation. And yeah, it took me a little while to like, have that perfect comeback to that, which is, like that the animals eat more plants. So the crop deaths argument is an argument for veganism. I think a lot of like these arguments actually just backfire on themselves.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was actually thinking that could be a cool video, like anti-vegan arguments that backfire. And
Yeah, that
yeah,
would be a great video.
yeah.
One of my favorite videos that you made was the little spoof you did of Aubrey Plaza's dairy
Oh,
video.
that was fun. That was so fun.
Yeah. So many people had fun with that. I mean, those were the good old
Yeah.
days, right?
The good old days.
The good
Yeah.
old days of Got Milk. I'm sure we'll see that creep back up since that had gone away for what, like a decade, and then we saw it again.
Queen Latifah did one. I mean, this was probably like 6 months ago at this point,
Yeah.
but that was super cringe too. It wasn't as bad
Mhm.
as the Aubrey Plaza one. I
I know.
message Aubrey Plaza on Instagram like every
You
time she
did?
posts a story. I mean, she hasn't read any of them, but it's still letting me send her messages. So I have
Oh,
like this insane, like it's just like ban dairy, ban milk, fuck dairy, like just like pages and pages of it. So if she ever actually looks at
nice.
those, she's gonna think I'm like literally an insane person.
Well, I think the Abra Plaza video received such negative backlash, which was like really encouraging to see. Like people jumped all over that, and I think
Yeah.
she like took the comments off. I mean, it's probably not her, but her team or whoever took the
Yeah.
comments off of that video, so you couldn't even comment on that one.
God. Yeah, that's it was I hate the dairy industry so much.
Yeah. And why? Why do you hate the dairy industry? Let's give some people some fact bombs about the
Oh my
dairy
god,
industry.
some fact bombs. So first of all, like we shouldn't be drinking from cows in the first place. Like it's just really fucking weird. Like why are we breastfeeding from
Yeah.
cows? Over 70% of humans are lactose intolerant. I
Mm.
think I'm lactose intolerant. I felt way better once I quit dairy. Have these vivid memories of being in school and not being allowed to go to recess unless I drank my disgusting milk carton. And it always tastes like shit and made me feel sick. And they make you drink it. You know, it's absolutely insane because of the dairy lobby. And they're so powerful. And the dairy industry on the new farm bill, they're asking to get between 15 and 19 billion dollars in subsidies,
Oh
which is
Lord.
absolutely insane. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot with the dairy industry. They they used to put formaldehyde in milk to like preserve it long enough to get to market. They used to put chalk in milk. Like the milk has killed so many children throughout history. Before pasteurization, it was like a whole mess. I think it's
Mhm.
an industry that should have died hundreds of years ago. So the fact that it's still a thing is insane to me. And
And
raw
you know
milk
what?
kills people all the
Oh yeah.
time.
And you know what they're finding in milk now is the bird
Avian
flu.
bird flu. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, they did a sample and found like 1 in 5 dairy products had traces of avian flu. I just can't imagine. Like, imagine rewinding, to back when we drank milk and seeing a story like that. What would you even do with a story like? Would you? I think it would affect me. Like, I don't want to drink even trace amounts of some
of
bird
bird
flu.
flu. Yeah, I mean, I was never really a big dairy person anyway. But yeah, I
Mhm.
wonder that like why are people still drinking it? But then like with everything about the avian bird flu, it says the FDA still says drinking milk is fine. So there's
Mhm.
still so much propaganda about it being
Oh yeah.
safe.
Oh yeah. When like maybe 2 years after not consuming any dairy, I had ordered like coffee that they accidentally put dairy in. And
Mhm.
as soon as I took a sip, I could taste like just how rancid it was. Like it has this weird, like I don't know how true this is because I don't think I've consumed many, like, after you go vegan, there's a good chance like you may unknowingly consume some animal
Yeah.
products. But I don't think I've consumed many, but that was very noticeable. And it was so gross. I think you lose your taste. Like you don't realize how like rotting this food is when you eat
Mhm.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so gross. I'm sorry that
I
happened to you.
know. Well, it's literally like bodily secretions, and that's just kind of
Yeah.
gross when you think about it.
It's
Whereas,
disgusting.
yeah, oat milk is just what? Oats and water, right? I mean, that's all it is.
And it's delicious. I love oat
Yeah,
milk.
I know, it's so good. How
Yeah.
come there aren't more vegan coffee shops, do you think? There's one here where I live, but there needs to be more.
There should be more. Wait, don't you live in Asheville?
Yeah, yeah.
What's it called?
It's called Gallivant.
Okay, I'll have to check it out next time I'm
Yeah,
there. Yeah, I don't know. Why aren't there more vegan everything? There should be.
yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. Well, how about Denver? What's the scene like? Is there like a lot of vegan restaurants in Denver?
Yeah, I think so. So I was only there for about 10 days and we were in Boulder for a good portion of that. I don't
Yeah,
think there are vegan restaurants in Boulder. There was a vegetarian place we went to that was really good. Denver seems to have a lot. I went to this one restaurant. I don't even remember the name, but it was like really tasty. And there's this pizza place called Mora Pizza. And I didn't get to try it because they were closed, but it looks so good. I look at their Instagram like every day. But yeah, there's
yeah,
a bunch of vegans in Denver, and the pro animal community is like over 100 volunteers, and they do socials all the time. It's a really active community. And
yeah.
yeah, we're hoping to bring in more people who are interested in veganism, but maybe might not even be vegan yet, or just inactive vegans. That's kind of who we're trying to reach.
Do you think do you think like it would be wise of like the animal rights movement as a whole to kind of like focus some of their attention on Denver this coming November?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's huge. Like, I think we should definitely be. I mean, not just Denver, but also Sonoma County,
Hmm.
anywhere with these big, bold ballot initiatives, because you could think about like what's going to change people's minds on this. Maybe a conversation about veganism will, but hearing that a city banned slaughter or banned factory farming, that's going to change a lot of people's perception of this issue. It could put animal rights on the map in a way that it hasn't been. It can turn it into a political movement as opposed to a fringe issue that only a few people care about. So, yeah,
Hmm.
I definitely think that we should put a lot of emphasis on it and also encourage people to do it in more cities. And we're just starting in Denver. We're expanding to other cities shortly.
Yeah. Oh, other cities as well. I see. Yeah, I didn't. You mentioned that Pax Fauna and Pro Animal Future are the same organization. I think some people might be confused by that. What's the difference?
I guess maybe not the same organization, sister
Yeah.
organizations would be
Yeah.
more accurate, but everyone who works for Pax Fauna also works for Pro Animal Future, and right now it's pretty focused on Pro Animal. So Pax Fauna started in 2021, I believe, and then mostly they were doing research about the animal movement and why we're not as successful as we should be and how do people view animals. And then Pro Animal Future was born out of that research a year ago.
Hmm. Yeah, and Eva Hamer is one of the main drivers behind that. Just an amazing activist, and Eva was actually facing charges for rescuing beagles along with Wayne Shung and Paul Darwin Picklesheimer very recently until they dropped charges. I think knowing that if they went through with this, that they're going to look pretty bad charging people for rescuing beagles. I'm actually surprised it even got as far as it did. How about you?
Yeah, I am surprised. Eva was saying she thinks they just did that so the animal rights movement would put a lot of money into like campaigning against it and getting people there and then cancel at the last minute just to kind of mess with us, which, could be accurate.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, like definitely like the trials and everything are expensive and they're a huge amount of people's time, but I mean, they were ready to go. Like they viewed this as like a huge opportunity to put this place on the map and get a lot of attention to the fact that we do this to beagles. I mean, it's like one of those things like that governor in South Dakota is getting a lot of heat in the last day or last few days for shooting her dog. Did you
Yeah.
hear about that? Yeah, and I,
Yeah.
I mean, all the news media is outraged about that, and rightfully so. However, there's all these other dogs that they're not reporting on that it's happening to right now. Actually, so the place is still open.
Yeah, I think that I think that we would have won that trial and
Yeah,
it
yeah,
would have been easy, but so I guess that's why
yeah.
they dropped the charges.
Yeah, and we were actually. I was looking forward. I imagine Elwood's dog meat was going to come out for that. Tell us about Elwood's.
Oh man, Elwoods. I love Elwoods. This is actually my favorite type of street activism, I think. We did it a lot with ASAP on college campuses. You just go and we set up our table and it's got this fake steak and meatballs and this huge flag that says free dog meat samples and all these pictures of happy dogs. And it really connects with people in a way that other activism doesn't. It's so attention grabbing.
Yeah.
So if we do a different demo, like even human breast milk or debates, we'll have pretty steady conversations. But Elwood, there's so many students coming up. We don't even have enough people to talk to everyone who comes up. And the conversations we have are really good because they immediately feel connected to dogs. And then you can just say, what's the difference with other animals? And that puts animal rights, it just makes it a bit more tangible to them since they've had
Mhm.
personal relationships with dogs, whereas they haven't with pigs and chickens and cows. So yeah, I love Elwoods. It's so much fun. And it's also fun to just when you start the conversation to pretend like you are a dog farmer and just say the things that farmers say, like, oh, we give our dogs a really good life. And then, it's just one bad day at the slaughterhouse and we get delicious pug
It's one
bacon,
bad
or
day.
just one bad day, lions eat dogs, so why shouldn't we? Just stupid things like that. You can even
Yeah.
say, if people don't want to try it, well, for every dog you don't eat, I'm going to eat 3, and just
Hmm.
really troll people. So I have so much fun doing that.
Yeah, but you didn't mention that it's okay because it's organic and free range, and
Free range. Yeah,
uh,
absolutely.
yeah. So that's Molly Elwood. Did you ever meet Molly?
I've met her via Zoom, not in person, but yeah, she's super cool.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I thought we were going to have some fun with that in Wisconsin, but of course they dropped the charges.
It was a bummer because I was going to come to that and then
That's
didn't.
right. Yeah. I was going to see you there. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you going to Ava?
I'm thinking about it. I'm not sure if I'm going to go or not.
Okay.
Yeah. Are you going?
Yep.
Oh, cool. Cool. Yeah. That's the conference happening in DC later this month. Actually, probably that's going to happen before this interview airs. So we'll
Mm.
find out. Yeah, I've been working, just so you know, like I've been working on a channel with Wayne Chung, and his is going to launch, probably in the next week or so. And then I'm going to launch mine separate as sort of a supplementary to his channel for people that want to do more. And for me, it's just kind of trying it out and seeing if there's something that I can bring to this. My background was with NPR and radio. So I used to do these kinds of long form interviews back in my past. So it's just to kind of see and see where it goes. But I guess what one of my questions for you is, you have a YouTube channel, and I would say it's pretty successful. And it's definitely like gotten your name out there. And what advice would you have for me?
Wow. What YouTube advice would I have?
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'd call my channel successful. I've only got 5,000 subscribers and it's been like 3 years. For the
I knew you
animal
were going to
rights
say that.
movement, fairly successful. I've got great
Mhm.
group of subscribers that like my stuff, and that stuff's important. So when I think about YouTube, I think of it more in terms of building community
Mhm.
and longevity, because a lot of people who are successful on YouTube, they've been doing it for so long. So I think a lot of people start and they think, "Oh, I'll do this for a few months and see how it goes." Nothing is ever going to happen in those first few months or even those first 6 months or most of the time, even for a year. So you really need to have a lot of patience and to enjoy the process, because if you're over focused on analytics, you're just not going to be happy. Even if you have a video that gets 10,000 views, you're always going to want it to be higher. So I think
Mhm.
really focusing on the aspects that you can control. The other
Mhm.
thing is consistency. Consistency is so important in any area of life. With YouTube, make sure that you have an upload schedule when you're starting out. You can change that eventually if you want, but I would just try to aim for once a week. If you can't do that, then once every 2 weeks, but don't do it
Mhm.
like randomly, because
Right, right,
you
right.
want people to have something to look forward to. So people know my videos come out on Fridays and now I stream on Sundays. So it gives them like a bit of a structure there.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that you wouldn't call your channel that successful. You and I, when we were standing in line, we were talking about your channel. We were, and I consider it successful because it's, to me, like you mentioned, it's really not about these analytics. It's really about this community, and I feel like there's this community of YouTubers, and you've helped me even get in touch with Ellie before when I was trying to get arranged interviews. Vegan Gays, Ellie Fleming, who's just an amazing activist, and there's this group of YouTubers who are doing great work. And I consider you one of them, and Ellie one of them, and like Justin Jacobs of Debug Your Brain, Lifting Vegan Logic, all these people who are just like cranking it out and getting the content out there. And yeah, I think it's about the sum of it all, you know,
Hmm.
like I do think it's realistic for people to not, you know, kind of have expectations about it. I imagine my channel won't get many views at all, especially because I think probably what it's going to be doing is like long form content, which in our attention span world is not really going to do that well. I do think Wayne's channel has the potential to do well because while he's going to be doing the long form content, he's also got the name recognition, and he's also just really interesting and intelligent, and he can talk to people for a lot. So we'll just see how it goes. But the point I want to make about it is like, it's just like, you know, it's giving it a try. And so when you started your YouTube channel too, you kind of, it's like that throwing caution to the wind. It's like, go and try something. And I think that's a good message for activists and people, and even like people who aren't like in the animal rights world, just in life, and just uh you know, just giving it a try, even about veganism, you know, go try, do it, you know,
Yeah.
because like the number of times when I've regretted something, it's not when I've tried, it's when I've like, you know, wussed out before
Yeah.
trying something. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true. And I mean, yeah, it is, you never know what to expect. And I guess I should say, like, I do think my YouTube channel is successful because without it, I wouldn't have this job with Pro Animal
Mhm.
Future, and I wouldn't know how to edit videos and I wouldn't know how to talk to people as well. And building those skills has been so important. So I would say to you, a lot of YouTubers don't want to do this, but it'll set you so far above the rest is learn to edit and try to get good
Mhm.
at it because I see a lot of YouTubers who just they haven't the quality of their videos hasn't improved and you want to always be trying to improve. It's
Right,
probably
right.
harder with just the long form conversation, but there's always something you can do to get
Yeah.
better.
Yeah, right, right. Yeah, there's always stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, like for instance, like video quality, sound quality are definitely things that I could improve right off the bat because I'm just using my laptop, you know. So yeah, but there's definitely some evolution that can happen. I mean, like
Yeah.
even with activism, like you've evolved in your activism quite a bit already, including like goals and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Like right now, I feel like pretty comfortable with long form content, but not as much with short form. So that's really what I'm focused on learning right now. And it's like kind of a completely different game, but it's been really fun to learn more about that.
Yeah, you've been doing you mentioned Sunday scaries, right? Like what is that?
Yeah. 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 Do you know what that term means?
No, I don't.
Okay, I thought everyone knew this, but I guess they don't. So, let's say you have like a crappy Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. I was in this
Mhm.
situation not too long ago. And on Sunday night, you get the worst anxiety because you know that tomorrow is Monday morning and you have to wait till Friday before you're really going to be happy again because your job is just sucking the life out of you. So that's
Mhm.
called Sunday scaries. So my streams are a way for people to have fun on a Sunday night, have something to look forward to, ease their anxiety about the upcoming week. And yeah, right now I'm really just experimenting with it. I do
Mhm.
some videos, or if there's something I want to talk about, or if there's like Reddit, I'm going to start having people on. Debug Your Brain is coming on very soon.
Nice.
So some interviews as well.
Yeah, and you guys are I've seen you do a live with Debug Your Brain before, and Shout out to him. He's a great activist, and it's similar. Like he was doing kind of similar street outreach to you, and his spin on it, from my viewing of it, was like doing a nice, like these nice explainers of like
Yeah.
on the screen of like what's happening and what he's doing. And I'm going to talk to him also. But one of my favorite things that he showed on one of his videos was when he was doing like, you know, an outreach video with somebody. They were struggling to come up with an answer, and his advice was, don't
Mm,
bail them out, because like we want to fill the space, you know, like it's uncomfortable when you're sitting there with
yeah.
silence. But he was like, that's when it's happening, that's when like they're starting to connect the dots, and if you interrupt that, then, you know. So it was great. It was this very uncomfortable
Yeah.
15 seconds or whatever of just him holding the microphone.
Yeah. Just like smiling. Like,
Yeah, yeah, in his way, you know, very
yeah.
kind, and he's so great at
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, Justin's great. Yeah, and that wasn't something that I knew before. Like I didn't realize that you should let people just think. And now that
Mhm.
I know that, I do that. So it's great.
Yeah, yeah. Well, cool. Well, I think that's pretty much covered it from my end, but is there anything else
Cool.
you think we should talk about?
Oh man.
Anything I missed?
I don't know. I guess not. I mean, do you want to talk about yourself at all? Like I always feel weird doing an interview because I'm just like
I
there's
don't
like
want
I
to
feel
talk
like I
about
don't know you that well. Like I kind of know you, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
you know,
yeah. No, I
if
thought we were
there's
best friends. Like, what the hell,
we're
man?
best friends.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, what do you want to see vegan activists do more of?
That's a great question, and I actually don't have a great answer for that. Even though I'm involved in, you know, with Wayne, who has a very clear um, vision of what he thinks. Like, that's actually like this is a great chance for me to talk about. Um, this kind of will rebut the kind of cult allegations. Like DXC's this cult, and Wayne's not involved in DXC anymore, but you know, he's DXC adjacent and the
Mhm.
Simple Heart. So there's a lot of disagreement, is what I'm saying, in these organizations. So I'm not necessarily sold on all the strategies of them. So I don't know. I think what I'd like to see vegan activists do more of is just to be bold and to kind of work on areas that they feel like they need improvement. Actually, a friend of mine made a good point to me the other day that I hadn't thought of. Like a lot of times we say to activists, find what you're good at, you know, and use that. But his point was that actually what you should do as an activist, find what you're shit at and work on that. Because a lot of times, like what we're bad at are the things that would be really helpful. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, Wayne brought up in one of his interviews that, you know, like what this movement needs a lot of are like things like accountants, people like who just do the really unpleasant
yeah.
paperwork, you know, things like that. So I think, you know, when I went vegan, it was 5.5 years ago. And that for me was like a year of reinvention. Part of that, you know, veganism was part of that, but it was also about just pushing my boundaries, like whether it was playing music or activism. It was just trying to put myself in situations that forced me to expand, you know, like intentionally uncomfortable situations sometimes. I think that's good for people, you know.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Doesn't
I
mean take
totally agree.
risk. Yeah, I mean take necessary risk, I guess. But yeah, I mean, do you feel that way as well? Like when you've like put yourself out there, do you feel like the result has generally been positive?
Yeah, I mean, definitely like I feel like I spent a lot of my life just kind of getting by and just partying and not really challenging myself. And then this book, Atomic Habits, came out in 2018. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's all about building habits. And like a big part of it is that idea that you have to be uncomfortable if you want to grow and evolve. And I just started implementing a lot of the stuff in the book. I started juggling, I started lifting weights, and
Mhm.
yeah, I think that you feel so much more satisfied and at peace when you've really pushed yourself that day, is what I found. So yeah, stuff like that is super important. And I do think that most of my, I mean, yeah, my stuff has been pretty well received. Like not all of it's been well received. Certainly there are definitely,
Mhm.
some fights that I've started, and that's fine, because I think that we should be critiquing each other in the movement, not in a way to be mean, but in a way to improve. And I guess that's one of the things I wish vegans were better at, is receiving feedback and
Mhm.
taking it seriously, because we get so much feedback all the time, and most of it is garbage because most of it is from meat eaters, and they're just trying to silence us. But maybe some of what they're saying is right. Maybe some of it. And maybe some critiques from other vegans are fair as well. And I think that just being able to not only put yourself out there, but not be super negative and hurt when you're doing something that you want to change, and like taking that advice and changing, I think is really important too.
Yeah. I guess the last question I have for you is just like you've decided that your life is going to sort of be dedicated to animals, and it's like a thankless job. I mean, some people might praise you or whatever, but you're working for others. Are you able to get the personal satisfaction that you need from dedicating your life to others? I guess is my question.
I actually disagree, because I think that a lot of it is self serving. Because if we don't end animal agriculture, we are going to have pandemics that are going to kill us all. We are going to destroy the climate. We are not going to be able to live our comfortable lives that we want to live. So, while a lot of what I do is for the animals, it's also for the future of humanity and the future of my life. Like, I like living in a house that's mostly temperate and being able to do the things that I like to do.
Yeah.
And I don't want to give that up because the meat industry creates some terrible pandemic and everyone dies.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, actually, that's a great point. Like, people sometimes like ask, like, the when they're talking about things like law enforcement repression and just like the social costs that you face with doing activism and that sort of thing. There is a price you have to pay, but like really the price to not doing it is way more severe. And
Yeah.
most people don't realize that. Like, I mean, it may not be felt today. Oh, I hear a pup. Yeah.
Yeah, there he is.
Maybe they agreed because they were like, hell yeah. Hell
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I think the cost of inaction is like really severe. And while it may not happen like right away, yeah, it's still going to be felt. And if not by us, by somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's probably going to be felt by us, like realistically. If we
Yeah,
look at how the
probably.
climate's going, I mean, I already feel it in New Orleans. It floods here so much more than it used to.
Right,
So,
right,
yeah.
right. Were you there during Katrina?
No, so Katrina was in 2004. It's
Okay.
2004? Yeah, and, I didn't move here till 2014. So, no,
Okay.
Katrina was later. But there have been other floods. Like, I remember
Mhm.
it was July 22nd of 2017, and there was this huge rainstorm, and I had driven to the grocery store, and I was trying to drive back home, and, like, I literally could not drive on the roads because they were just filled with water. So I had to, like,
Mhm.
drive on the bike path, and then I couldn't park in my spot. I had to, like, park on my neighbor's, and there was just so much water, so many cars flooded. And after that, the city said, "Oh, we didn't do anything wrong. This was a 1 in 1,000 year storm. It was just crazy. The pumps couldn't keep up."
Mhm. Mhm.
3 weeks later, the same thing happened again, but worse.
Yeah.
And thousands of more cars flooded. So that's when I was really like, okay, climate change is going to be a pretty big problem.
Yeah, I mean, I used to live in Wilmington in North Carolina, and I wasn't there, but that's a city that got devastating floods during a recent hurricane. Do you still like have the specter of Katrina over there in New Orleans? I know you weren't there prior to, but I'm sure people talk about it still.
Oh
Um,
yeah, people talk about it all the time.
oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's, I mean, not as much as like when I first moved here. I feel like people talked about it more. And there was a
Mhm.
pretty bad hurricane in 2021, Hurricane Ida.
Okay.
So I mean, not nearly as devastating as Katrina, but yeah, I mean, it definitely still affects the city.
Yeah. Do you love living in New Orleans?
Oh yeah, New Orleans is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. I hate cold weather, and like it's cheaper than other cities for housing. Like I have a great house with like a yard, and it's a lot more
Nice.
walkable. I really hate driving. I've become very
Hmm.
radicalized against cars, and you don't really have to drive much here. You can bike or walk, and there's decent transit. So yeah, I love that.
Are there good a lot of activists in New Orleans? Because
So that's my big problem is there's not really many
interesting.
activists. Yeah. So that's why I think it's actually been a blessing in disguise because that made me focus more on online stuff. And that's allowed me to reach more people. And
Right.
also I've traveled a lot and met cool activists like you and people all over the place. So,
Yeah.
it's a
I was.
bummer that there's not more going on here, but it's not too bad.
Yeah. As I asked that, I was thinking, I think you're the only one that I know from New Orleans, actually. So you may actually be the only person that I know from New Orleans, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, New Orleans is fun. Yeah, and I feel like it's prime for a good revival of activism, if there ever was, a lot of animal rights activism there, or a birth, if there never was.
Yeah, I mean, if someone else organizes it, that's actually what if you're talking about like building up our weaknesses, mine would definitely be organizing.
Oh, interesting. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
just so bad
yeah.
at it.
Oh, so that question that you asked me, what would you like to see activists do more of? Is that how you'd answer it? Like, get into organizing, build things from
Here, one
scratch,
second.
basically. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, can you save me some of that? Okay, I love you. Yeah, I wait, what was the question? Sorry.
Oh, it was just like you had asked me the question. Remember, like, what would
Oh
you like
yeah.
activists to do more of? What would your answer be to that?
What do I want activists to do more of?
Yeah.
Oof, it would be I think we should be kinder to people. I think
Hmm.
there's a lot of the like, oh, we want to be right, and we are right, but talking about veganism makes people so they put such a guard up anyway that you have to really be extra kind
Hmm.
in order to really get through to them. So I think we should do that. I think we should look at more research. I think we should, yeah, take feedback more openly and more honestly, and really focus a lot on ballot measures and changing systems, and like you said, doing a lot of the boring stuff as well. And
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I think we just need more vegans to get active because there's so many vegans that aren't active. But maybe
Hmm.
that's partially because the types of activism that we're doing don't appeal to them. So broadening what that looks like could be a good
Right. Right.
idea.
Right. Yeah, I take the position that I don't know what the most effective kind of activism is, and I'm just glad when someone's doing something.
Yeah.
I mean, I always figure like even if I thought it was having very minimal impact, it's still better than them doing nothing at all. So I can't really see many instances where it would be a negative.
I would love to agree with you, but yeah, I've seen, street outreach videos where people are just basically harassing people. And I think like, oh, I think
Mm.
that actually hurts veganism.
Interesting. Yeah, yeah. You could be right. There could be a point where where you're actually hurting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
I do mostly agree with you though, is that like, we just want people to
mhm,
be active. I don't want to be like
yeah.
shitting on people's activism.
Right, right, right. Well, I think, and I thought when you said we should be nice to each other, I thought you were going towards the vegan movement and the activist movement because I do think that is one of the areas where we attack each other a lot. Like whether it's just differing philosophies or just differing approaches, like we shit on each other a whole lot, and you know I I I was just talking to somebody and we were talking about Wayne and they were like, "No, Wayne's not tired." Like because Wayne doesn't appear tired in public, but behind the scenes like he's so weary of all the infighting in the movement.
Mm.
And I agree, like it's just so draining. So yeah, I wish we would be nicer to each other, and then like that would be conducive to us having like really the important like philosophical debates that we have, because we're all kind of on the same team. Like we all want the same outcome. It's
Yeah.
just like how we get there. So yeah,
Have you heard of the concept, the narcissism of small differences?
I think so. Yeah, yeah.
So essentially, it's that whenever there's a group that shares a lot of similarities, it's the small differences that people focus on and magnify. And that's what causes a lot of the infighting, like you're talking about. So this happens in every movement. And I think, especially in the vegan movement, because we are so different from like everyone else in society. So those
Hmm.
similarities, I think we feel even more. So yeah, the human brain just is overly attuned to differences. We can see it with
Yeah.
racism and sexism and
Mhm.
yeah. So I think it's like a very natural human thing that absolutely we need to be aware of and fight against.
Yeah, we're very tribal, I guess, is
Yeah.
you know, which is interesting, like with racism and sexism, our similarities are so pronounced that it's just so weird that we do focus on those differences. And then the other thing is just that a lot of people just get bogged down in haters. And I think a lot of people who even get a ton of love, like they're just like, they'll just get like positive, positive, positive when you're looking at somebody's comment section, and then one negative, and then that's the one that we focus on.
Yeah.
And like you're not going to please everybody all the time. So I mean, that's just true of any kind of activism. Like I'm sure every video you've put out has some kind of hate comment below it.
Yeah,
No matter-
probably. And it's
yeah,
weird because I feel like when I get hate comments from meat eaters, it doesn't really bother me. I'm like, oh, because they're not even reacting to me. They're just reacting to whatever idea of veganism they have. But when I get
right.
hate from vegans, it definitely hurts a lot worse. And I've gotten a lot more used to dealing with that. And I'm sure I'm going to get a lot more hate from vegans in the future.
Yeah.
But it's tough. It can be tough, definitely.
Yeah, it's hard just because you also just kind of want to be like, hey, we're like, this isn't productive. We're not,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
Like we're on the same side.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like self-inflicted wounds. But anyway, I really appreciate you, Natalie, and I think you're making great content, and
Thank
you're
you.
doing great work with Pro Animal Future. So keep at it, and don't let the haters ever get you down. And just know you got people in your corner like me who
Hell
are
yeah.
gonna be there no matter what. So I appreciate you. We'll chat again sometime. All right.
Sounds great. Yeah, I really appreciate you having me on. And yeah, best of luck with your YouTube journey.
Yeah, appreciate you. All right. Take care.
Bye.